been a while since we've been in an NX, and I'm not sure if I've done a video on this channel. This is the new color for 2020. Pretty sharp color in the sun. Looks a little dull and muted in the shade, but I think it suits this car pretty well. The NX has always been a kind of a weird looking SUV for me. This front end looks good for approach angle off-road, but kind of a weird shark face among the Lexus lineup. Otherwise though, I think this is probably a pretty attractive looking SUV. This is pretty much a Lexusified last generation RAV4 hybrid. Same powertrain, just a little bit more comfort and luxury in here. Has a lot of great interior space. Drives really quite well. You get some nice features like the great sound system from Levinson. Base price on this is around 39 grand, and this has options up to about $50,000. Interior space is great. Plenty of leg room, place to put my feet. The leather in here is super soft, very supple. Interesting color choice for the seats and interior trimming, but otherwise I think this is a pretty attractive looking interior. The ergonomics and using this center console is actually pretty easy because it's so close to the driver. The touchpad, you guys have all heard about that. Some people hate it. I think once you get used to it, it's actually not as bad as people make it out to be. And Apple CarPlay is great to use. Actually, it's quite good to use with the touchpad. Very easy to get in and out of. And I think this is just a nice size for an SUV. It's not too big. You get the higher driving position. You get some ground clearance. Get a mild all-wheel drive system in this hybrid. Otherwise, everything falls to hand very easily in here. Some cool little features. You've got a little hand mirror here, and underneath a space to put some things. Plenty of room in the center console area to store stuff. Lots of adjustability in the driving position. High, low. You have your heated steering wheel over here, your camera view. You can kind of select that whichever direction you're going. Sometimes the monitor is a little bit dark in the bright sunlight for some reason, but most of the time it's pretty good. Automatic wipers, radar guided cruise control. If you hold that, you can actually go to traditional cruise control. You have a good amount of information in the center display. This NX hybrid averages 33 miles to the gallon in the city, 30 on the highway, and about 31 mpg combined. I've averaged about 30 this week. It seems to average that about, no matter how you drive this car. All right, let's take this thing for a drive. In eco mode, there's 3 drive modes: eco, normal, and sport. Eco mode, it's actually pretty easy to putz around in this thing at low speeds in full electric. This has the 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine from Toyota. One nice thing about it being in this NX is it's a lot quieter than it is in the RAV4. Lexus has done quite a bit of NVH tuning to this, and even under full throttle, it sounds a little bit unrefined, but there's definitely not as much cabin intrusion as there is in the RAV4. While we're on the subject of this versus the RAV4, it's a shame to say this because this is a great car, but this is still last-gen technology, or at least last-gen hybrid technology and specs from the previous generation RAV4. The new RAV4 gets close to 40 miles to the gallon or higher, and this is still around 30. So yeah, there's a little bit more weight here. This is a little bit of a heavier, heftier SUV. But if you're going for fuel economy numbers, this is no longer quite the best thing you can do. And of course, once the RAV4 Prime comes out, I think that's going to be cannibalizing a lot of NX sales, because it comes in at a pretty competitive, if not cheaper price with the same options. And if you can get your hands on one, that's probably going to be the way to go, honestly. Otherwise, though, the dynamics on this are great. You know, it's typical Toyota hybrid drivetrain. The brake pedal on this is actually pretty good. Throttle tuning, it's just super smooth, relaxing, comfortable to drive. All the materials in this are top-notch. Nice Miata. Very quiet at speed, no shakes or rattles. It's definitely not a sporting car to drive. Doesn't want to be hustled. It is a relaxing car to drive, though. But it definitely doesn't encourage spirited driving. Handling's a little bit sloppy. It's not too eager to change direction. But again, this isn't a sports car. I'm sure the RAV4 Prime will be a lot more sporting in its nature with that close to 300 horsepower. Acceleration is pretty ample. I think around 200 horsepower. It could be more, it could be quicker. You can always go for the gas versions if you want just a little bit more power out of your NX, but I think this is relatively acceptable for a power level. And you know, the fact that you get slightly better fuel economy, in my mind, this is kind of the NX to go for. It's not like you're trying to get something that's sporty that's also an NX. The F-Sport would probably be another pretty good option if you weren't super attached to the hybrid, but maybe that wouldn't be too bad of a way to go, because if you got the hybrid, you'd feel like, this is still last gen stuff, whereas the F-Sport has some pretty nice options, and it does drive a little bit more spiritedly than this. Radar Cruise works great. It's still Lexus's older system where you're always getting your speed showing up in the center display and kind of blocking everything that you're using, but that's okay. Get used to it. I do like that you can hold the cruise control stock for traditional cruise control without radar guided systems, and just use that normally. They've also improved the lane keep in this car. This does have active steering assist. It doesn't stay perfectly centered, but it will kind of bounce you off the sides of the road. And it'll give you a little bit of a vibration on the steering wheel. You can control that in the custom menu, whether that's a vibration or a beep or both, and the intensity of the vibration. I like how you can easily turn it off here on the controls. love that you get cooled seats for the summer, heated seats, heated steering wheel for the wintertime. You can adjust the sensitivity of the touchpad. I always did prefer the mouse because it offered some resistance and more haptic feedback than the touchpad, but they seem to have refined the system a little bit more than it used to be. Before, it was really difficult to select what you wanted, and it seems to have been improved over the years. Either that, or it's a combination of improvement and me just getting used to it. Let's throw it into sport mode, see what that does for driving dynamics. I'm sure you've got some paddle shifters. You can kind of simulate some shifts here. Of course, it is going to be a max gear type of thing. Not sure what happened there. Stability control kind of neutered the car for a few seconds. Like I said earlier, not a car that particularly likes to be pushed. It does have adequate handling, like any modern day car does, but the focus on here in this is ride quality, comfort. Very little wind and road noise at speed. If you're trying to get around traffic, you've got cruise control engaged. It accelerates pretty much immediately around the slower vehicles, which is great. Not a lot of delay. Lexus definitely has one of my favorite radar-guided systems. One thing I noticed is on the highway, you get a little bit of vibration from this mirror. Actually both side view mirrors. Not sure if that's specific to this car or just the NX in general. For such a solid feeling vehicle, that's a little bit strange to see. I will say the NX has really nice ride quality. It dampens bumps and abrupt potholes really, really quite well. Body motion is nicely controlled. The ride and the feel of this is way, way, way better than any RAV4 that I've ever driven. So that is a positive to this NX over the RAV4, is just its level of refinement. It's super comfortable, incredibly smooth and relaxing to drive, as are pretty much most Lexuses. Have offered Apple CarPlay in this since 2018. So if you're looking at getting a used one, you can still get this later infotainment system, which I actually think it's fine. I'm living with it this week and it works great. You do get used to the touchpad, even though it's not ideal. You can at least kind of go in the general direction of where you want to and fine-tune from there. Whereas with these scroll wheels, you have to go through every button to get to somewhere. The verdict is, this is a great car, but unfortunately it's a little bit out of date in the modern Toyota hybrid landscape. Toyota seems to be updating their Toyota models first that sell better than their Lexus models, and as a result, I think it's probably cannibalizing some Lexus sales at the same price point. That said, cars like the new Toyota Highlander are pretty darn good, and I would say better than their Lexus counterparts. I would definitely take a new Highlander over an RX, and I would probably take a RAV4 hybrid over this, or the RAV4 Prime when that comes out. So I'm excited to see what Lexus does with this car in the future with their newer hybrid systems and newer hybrid technology. But right now, that's kind of where I stand on this NX. It is nice to drive, though. It is a great car from Lexus, and checks a lot of boxes in this segment, but definitely not class leading, and though it is a nice overall package. Pretty easy to cruise here at 30 miles an hour in full EV mode. I've been able to maintain speeds about 40-45 miles per hour just on the battery. It would be nice to get just a little bit more acceleration, like usable acceleration in the real world, out of these hybrid cars, so that the engine wouldn't kick on below 20-30 miles an hour, and you could accelerate so that you wouldn't be holding up traffic behind you. That said, though, if you do hypermile a car like this, you can get some pretty good numbers out of it. I think this week I didn't have too much trouble getting about 36, 37 miles to the gallon in the city. The F-Sport does have adaptive sport suspension too, and that'll help a lot with this car's cornering capability and character. So right now, it does okay for a modern car, but definitely doesn't like it. Alright guys, well thanks for watching. That's going to wrap up this part of the review. We'll walk you around the car one more time, and then we'll go into the sound test with our latest audio tracks. Back this into the space. Use that reverse camera. Wonder if you can select. There we go. We can get a couple different views, a very wide angle and a 360 above view. There you go, guys. Lexus NX. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned if you want to listen to the sound test.
550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? That's a bet, right? That's a deal, right? That's a deal, right? Ay, coming down like precipitation. I ain't never met a limitation. Paid a plot in my elimination. Gotta go to Google for the information. I'm a superstar, so I gotta shine. Top dollar be the bottom line. Bottom feeding dotted line. Turn your heart rate to a dotted line. Yeah, my zodiac probably dollar sign. Got the energy to win it, I'm feeling great. Got a day with destiny, focusing on my fate. I don't give a fuck what you rapping, you been a fake. I'm everything that they ain't, it can't be, it won't be. Wanna see me fall, I can't go, I won't leave. Coming from the block.
A lot of intervention from the stability control system here. It does have a little bit of torque vectoring. Gets around the corner easily, but you can feel things happening in the background. I will say this Mark Levinson is nice, but I'm not blown away by it. I'd have to hear the standard audio system compared to this Mark Levinson and this NX to really compare, but it may not be worth the upgrade. If you're pretty happy with the standard audio, it might be an option worth foregoing. Alright guys, that'll be it for this one. Thanks for watching, we'll see you in the next video.